Hari Om. Let us chant the part 2 of Kenopanisad, starting from invocation. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Apyayantu mamangani pranachachushrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani. Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakaro Tanirakaranamasta Nirakaranam Mestu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishadsu Dharmaste Mayi Santu Te Mayi Santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yadi manyase subedeti tabhrame vapi nunam tvam vetta brahmano rupam yadasya tvam yadasya deveshvatanu mimamsyateva manye viditam naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha yonastat veda tat veda no na vedeti vedacha yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasaha Avijñātam vijānatam vijñātam avijānatam pratibodha viditham madham amrutatvam hi vindate atmana vindate vidyam vidyaya vindate mrutam iha cheda vedi tata satyamasti Tina chediha vedin mahati vinashtihi bhuteshu bhuteshu vichitya dhira pretyasman lokat amrtha bhavanti.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We studied Kenopanisad, part 1. To quickly recollect what is said in part 1, there is a question. The question is, what is it that enlivens the matter? Is matter conscious by itself, or is there anything that is making it conscious, is the question. Again, the question with which the Upanishad starts is there something that enlivens the matter? Is there anything that makes the matter conscious, or is matter itself the ultimate? So the question is matter itself the ultimate, Or is there anything that is enlivening it? A beautiful elaboration went into what the answer is. What is the answer? The answer is it is not something that is understandable. It is not something that can be recognizable. It is not something that can be understandable. Why it is not recognizable? Why it is not understandable? It is not recognizable. It is not understandable because the instruments are incapable of knowing it. It is there, but the instruments are not capable of knowing it. It exposes the limitations of the instruments. Another thing, if it cannot be known through the instruments, it cannot exist at all. It means the instruments are supremost. The Upanishad, the religion takes the first approach. Again, I repeat, the two approaches. The first approach is the human being instruments are supreme. There cannot be anything higher than the human instruments. Since there cannot be anything higher than the instruments, if it cannot be known through the instruments, it is not there. Or if I probe a little bit deeper, I can know it. So the human instrument has these two problems. One is it will say, I may not know it now, but give me some time, enough probing. If I do, I will get to know it. Therefore, there is no need to say that it doesn't exist. There is no need to say it doesn't exist at all. All that is required is a little bit of deeper probing. The Upanishad comes and says, this is something that is beyond it. Number one. Number two, it cannot be known to those who have a very superficial curiosity. Second reason why it cannot be known. It cannot be known to those who just have a superficial curiosity. Superficial curiosity means I want to do 5 things in my life. Of the 5 things that I want to do in my life, this is one. That is called as a superficial curiosity. Those who have the superficial curiosity, forget it. He says it cannot be known to them also. Superficial curiosity means what? A person is interested in emotional, financial, social security, constantly seeking comfort, pleasure, happiness, prosperity. This is a superficial person. Again, who's a superficial person? A superficial person, please understand, superficial person within brackets, according to the Upanishads. You may not agree to the Upanishads, that is your problem, that is our problem. But according to the Upanishads, this is what it is saying. What is it saying? Why it is not known? First is the instruments are limited. One reason. Second is your thirst also is very shallow. Your thirst is also very shallow. Your thirst is also very superficial. It is. Why it is superficial? Because the human mind is preoccupied with other things. What are the preoccupations? Financial security, emotional security, social security, isn't it? And then environmental security. What all we start with? We start with financial, emotional, social, environmental. When all these things are taken care of, I will come to, as I am attempting to get all these, a very passing curiosity to know about what Brahman is also is a second reason you cannot know. Why? Because you have not probed into yourself enough. The way that you are probing into everything else outside of you, You have not probed enough into yourself. Upanishadic student is one who has done the enough probing onto oneself. What is self-probing means, self-inquiry means? The shirt that you wear, the air-conditioned room that you are living in. Akbar, Alexander will be jealous of you. You know that? Akbar, who ruled the whole country, will be jealous of you. Alexander, who ruled the whole world, will be jealous of you because of the t-shirt that you are wearing, and because of the t-shirt that you are wearing, the footwear that you are wearing, the phone that you are using. Why? Because even he couldn't afford, with all the wealth and everything, he couldn't afford any of that. Even the t-shirt that we are wearing, he couldn't afford. Why? Because it wasn't there. Now what the human mind did, make it better, make it better, make it better. We go on making it better and better and better. This very notion of betterment comes from where? The very idea that you have to make things better comes from where? No other species try this betterment. Human beings are obsessed with betterment. Again, I repeat, no species worry about betterment. How the lion was hunting 5,000 years back, it's hunting even now. It never sat and thought, what a waste of energy running all the time. Why not? Why not do something else and hunt effectively? Yeah? It should be, the hunting should be more effective. No lions do that. No tigers do that. Only a human being is obsessed. Insanity is this obsession, but what to do? If everybody is insane, then insanity becomes normal, isn't it? At least this much you understand, no, Narayana? If everybody is insane, insanity becomes normal. So a sane person will be crucified there, isn't it? Therefore, what happens? There is this constant search for betterment. This constant search for betterment is because of the sense of emptiness, the void inside. What Akbar didn't have, what Ashoka the Great didn't have, what Alexander the Great didn't have, you and me are having. Did it take away the emptiness? Did it bring any change to that emptiness? It remains as empty as it is remaining, as empty as ever. So the sense of emptiness is not probed deeper. There is the sense of emptiness, but the sense of emptiness is not rightly inquired, rightly understood. Now, what is that sense of emptiness? You can't live with it. Understand? Sense of emptiness na sila conditions irukku. You can't live with it. You can't escape it. You can't put an end to it. Neither can you endure it or compromise and reconcile with it. Again, I repeat. I'm not saying all this. So Upanishad is saying. So don't look at me very weirdly. Why is he so angry today? Maybe sir is in a bad mood today. Upanishad is saying that. Why is it that we are not able to do that? The sense of emptiness, that sense of emptiness is so deep. It is so deep that you don't know what to do with it. You can't. Again, I repeat, You can't live with it. You can't run away from it. You can't escape it. Neither you can put an end to it. That is what betterment is all about. Betterment is nothing but a futile attempt to put an end to the emptiness. The fourth one is what? Okay, since nothing can be done with it, can I endure it, compromise with it, and say, okay, I'll be happy in misery. Sandoshama kashtapadrampa, at least. Yeah. At least I'll be happy in misery. Can you say that? You cannot. The state of mind in turmoil. Always in that turmoil. So what is this student has done here? Has probed deeper, has probed deep into one's own self and understood what? Any attempt to fill the void through the instruments is meaningless. Are you okay till now? Instruments try to fill the void from where? Instruments tries to fill the void from where? Instruments necessarily have to fill the void from the world outside. Because instruments know only the world. Again, I repeat. The instruments know only the world. Therefore, in order to fill the void, the instruments can go towards what naturally? It will go towards the world only. When the instruments are going towards the world to fill the void, that is called materialistic living. It's called materialistic living. Now, what is Upanishad saying? The Upanishad seeker is one who has done that any number of times, understood this is what I have been doing in many lives. Now that I have come to an understanding that it is futile, change the direction. That changing the direction is Upanishad. That changing, that change of direction, what? The instruments pursuing the world to fill the void is futile. You have done it. Everybody around you is doing it. All your predecessors have done it. Nothing has happened to them. Nothing has happened to any one of them. Why? Because all remain with the same. All are remaining with the same emptiness. All are remaining with the same turmoil. So, what is this person has done? He turned inward. When he turned inward, he could not go beyond the instruments again. The person here, the student here, turned inward. Having turned inward, could not cross the boundaries of the instrument. Not knowing what to do, he comes to the Guru and asks, Kena. 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 By what? By what? By what? By what is these instruments are kept alive? By what is these instruments gathering energy from? What is it that is making these instruments behave as though it is an independent entity? Are you able to follow? Okay, how do you understand that? It's very simple. A person is dead. Okay, understand it like that. If you get a chance to attend to your funeral, how it will be? புரியுதா? ஆடி வெள்ளிக்கிழமை சார், ரொம்ப auspicious day, holy day. இதெல்லாம் போய், why are you talking about all these wrong, negative things? Why can't you say some good? Why can't you say some good things? Isn't it? That's auspicious Friday, no, today. All Fridays are auspicious. That's in the Friday more auspicious. From all 360 degrees, Goddess is forcefully entering your ears now from this morning, isn't it? You can't. I'm trying to ensure that Goddess doesn't enter the ear. So much of music going on from all directions. Goddess is entering. Why are you talking about funeral and all that? Pro. Imagine that you have a chance to attend your funeral. What would be your mental state there? How would you see it? Death means you have disconnected. Death, first you have to understand what you are completely disconnected with everything. Having completely disconnected with everything, you come and watch it. How will you watch it? Somebody will be touching your hand. The body's hand, not your hand. Yeah, the body. Would you feel any touch? The eyes may be open and it looks like it's seeing, but can you see? You don't, isn't it? Somebody is praising you. Somebody is praising you and say, what a wonderful human being. Somebody else will be whispering amongst themselves. Thank God, isn't it? Thank God this fellow left. We are waiting for this fellow. So somebody is whispering that thank God that you have left. Somebody is cursing God that why you took this fellow away prematurely, so early. Why did you take this fellow? Now all these things, how would you see it? You will have absolutely no interest in what is happening around, isn't it? That's not what I am trying to say. That's not what I am trying to say. You are declared dead. And then they come and ask, can I take your eyes? Now, what will you ask? Are you dead or am I dead or not? The answer is you are dead. Can I take it? It means the eyes still have the capability to see, even though you can't see. All along you have been seeing, but suddenly something happened that you lost the capability to see, but the eyes still have the capability to see for. The eyes still have the capability. So the question that he's asking is, what is it that makes the eyes to see? What is it that makes the eyes to see? What is it that makes the ears to hear? What is the use of knowing all this, sir? What is the benefit of knowing all this? Why do we even have to ask all these questions? Why do we even have to ask all these questions? Why do we even have to worry about these probing? Upanishad has done, the Upanishad student has done all this probe, have understood the matter, okay, the instruments as matter, jadam. Remember, this is the word that we used in the previous session. Kenopanisad Mari, idu bodu illaya. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4 Mari, lectures Part 1, Part 2 advertisement potanga nethiki group la, isn't it? Yeah. So very good. Kenopanisad tradition is followed. They completely we are following. So he said, the probe made them to understood the body is jadam. All the instruments are jadam. Jadam means lifeless by itself. Then the question is, if they are lifeless by itself, what is it that makes it to feel so alive? From where is it borrowing its sentiency? What is it that is making it to function as though it is capable of doing everything? What is that power? Keneshitam padati peshitam manaha. Kenaf pranaf pratamaf praitiyuktaha. Keneshitam vachamimam vadanti. Chakshushrothram kavudevo yunakti. So the question is not about the world. The question is about the instruments and that which enlivens the instruments. Right? Question itself is very deep. Na? Answer goes out of the window. Answer flies out, answer fly out of the window. Yes. Shrotrasya shrotram. It is the eye of the eye. It is the ear of the ear. It is the prana of the prana. It is the mind of the mind. Knowing this, Shrotrasya Shrotram, Pretyasma Loka Amrita Bhavanti. A few has attained immortality knowing this. What do they know? What did they know? Shrotrasya Shrotram. And then we went into the detailed explanation of what is the Shrotrasya Shrotram, etc. And then he went on to say, 5 mantras. He went on repeating it. All that we studied. Then he went on to talk about the 5 mantras, repeating it again and again and again. What is that repetition? Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. That is Brahman, not what you worship here. That is Brahman, not what you worship here. That is Brahman, not what you worship here. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. Beautiful explanation he gave. Shrotrasya Shrotram. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. 5 times repeating it. Extraordinary explanation. Understood? Now part 2 is starting. Now we are entering into the part 2 with this background. What is this background of part 2 now? The education is done. The education is given so beautifully. He has explained it so well, so thoroughly. What happened now? All the students started nodding their head, saying that I'm understanding, I'm following. Everybody started nodding their head. When the Guru saw them nodding their head, he goes into a different direction. Part 2. If part 1 is extraordinary in its way, part 2 is beautiful in a completely different direction. Before we enter into part 2 mantra, a small introduction is needed for this also. Because for everything we will introduce. And the introduction will take more time than the mantras. Suppose introduction, Anjanal introduction, part 2 will continue next month also. Narayana, okay, no? Supposing if he goes, Sunil, you are okay, no? Huh? Supposing if 5 days goes in introduction itself, what do we do? Part 2, season 2. Clear. Part 2, season 2 we will do. We are not in a hurry to finish it. Having communicated it so beautifully, having heard it so wonderfully expounded, having heard it from the teacher, so each and every word from the teacher, the student is able to feel from where it is coming from. Yeah, it's coming from something that is so inexplicable that they are able to, that they are understanding and following. And looking at that now, the Guru wants to say a few few things. That is part 2. Looking at that now, he's saying something very beautiful. A brief introduction to part 2 we are going to see now. And as I said, my brief introduction is not brief at all, isn't it? I only say it's a very brief introduction. It's not brief. First thing, a few things has to be understood. First thing, the knowledge of the ultimate, knowledge of Brahman is paradoxical. Understand that. It is the knowledge of the ultimate reality is paradoxical, and it is paradoxical for a few reasons. Why they are paradoxical? A few reasons. The first reason is this. Number 1. The very claim that one knows becomes a hindrance. The very claim that I know becomes a hindrance. Because the moment you say, I know, you are emphasizing the I. The moment you say, I know, the emphasis is placed on what? The I. The moment the emphasis is placed on I, the ego has become stronger. Therefore, the knowledge of the ultimate is paradoxical, because you can never say, I know. Because the moment you say, I know, you are not only, you think you are emphasizing the knowledge. See, generally speaking, whenever people say, I know, they think they are only making a statement of fact. They think they are only making a statement of fact. They are only emphasizing on the knowledge. But what you don't understand, what nobody realizes is, there is a very subtlest, strongest, innallam superlative terms you can use. The subtlest, the strongest, the deadliest barrier. What is the strongest, subtlest, deadliest barrier? The ego. And that ego goes and hides behind the word I. The ego goes, the subtlest ego, the strongest barrier hides behind the word I, and it says, I know. So when someone says, I know, the I has destroyed the knowledge already, and the person remains as ignorant as ever. The moment the person says, I know, the ego has hidden behind the I, and the ego has already destroyed the knowledge. Therefore, you can never say, I know. You can never say, I know. We have heard this story any number of times, no? The oracle at Delphi declared Socrates to be the wisest person alive. There is that oracle at Delphi declared Socrates is the wisest person alive. Those who heard it came and told Socrates that you are the wisest person to be alive. Socrates laughed and said, go and tell the oracle that it is wrong. Go and tell the oracle that it is wrong. I know that I don't know. The oracle is saying Socrates is the wisest person. Who is the wisest person? Wisest person means one who knows everything. Yeah. Wisest man. So the oracle declared Socrates to be the wise man. Socrates said, go and tell the oracle that it's wrong, because Socrates knows one thing. What? Socrates knows one thing, that he doesn't know anything. People returned to the oracle and said Socrates refused to accept. Socrates refused to accept that he is the wisest. He is saying he is the most ignorant one. The oracle laughed and said, that is the paradox of knowledge. Since he is able to say that I am incapable of knowing, he knows. Are you able to follow? Since he is saying I am incapable of knowing, that is the only reason that makes me to say that he is wise. Paradox. We have seen this paradox any number of times. The ignorant think they know. To think that you know is part of the ignorance. To be aware of the ignorance is knowledge. Again, I repeat, to be aware of your ignorance. To be aware of your ignorance means to be aware that you cannot know, that you can never know. That's why the so-called wise people who claims I know, you always see them as though they are carrying a heavy burden on them. You can never see any laughter. You can never see anything. There's so much of seriousness about everything, isn't it? That's why they say the wisest person is supposed to be the philosopher, isn't it? The wisest person is supposed to be the philosopher, and all philosophers looks very, first of all, they look very sad. Isn't it? They look very, very sad. Grumpy-ஆ? உருன்னு இருக்கிறதுன்னா அது எப்படி சொல்றது இங்கிலீஷ்ல? How do you say that? Grumpy. Sad, grumpy. Glass கூட ஒழுங்கா இருக்காது, isn't it? Even the glass will not be like this. Even the glass has to be, you don't know whether he is seeing you through that or he is seeing you through that. You don't know. You feel like such a thing. This is the problem of this is the problem with all the ignorant people who say, I know. The moment, a moment will come. A moment will come. It should come. And blessed moment is that in life. The moment you come where you know that you are not capable of knowing, you are not capable of knowing a single thing in completeness. Forget about knowing so many things. You cannot even know a single thing in completeness. The moment you recognize that, you realize that there is the humility. In that humility, the burden of the burden of ignorance leaves you. When you feel that you do not know, when you understand that you can never know, ego cannot exist. So where is the freedom coming from? The disappearance of the ego. Are you able to understand now? The burden, the ego is the burden. Now the person feels so light because what has gone away? What went away? Not the knowledge didn't go. The subtlest, the strongest, the hidden barrier went away. What is that barrier that went away? The ego. And wherever the ego melts away, wherever the ego goes away, you are very relaxed. Therefore, the whole humanity can be divided into two, basically. There is an ignorance which knows, as one category. There is a knowledge that is ignorance. There is a knowledge of ignorance. That's another category. Upanishad wants to be very careful. The Upanishadic Guru wants to be very careful. What is it that they are very careful about? You should not fall into the trap. You should not fall into the trap of the knowledge strengthening your ego. The knowledge should not strengthen your ego. If you claim knowledge, you are ignorant. If you accept ignorance, idam paradox. Again, if you claim knowledge, you are ignorant. If you accept ignorance, the ego is gone. So for all practical purposes, knowledge or ignorance is not in relation to the information or data. Please understand. It's not in relation to the data. It is not in relation to the information. It is in relation to the ego being strong or disappear. That's all. So the Upanishadic Guru is not worried about the technicality of your data. The Upanishad Guru is not worried about the authenticity of your data, because there is no authenticity in anything. Big deal. There is no authenticity in anything, because it keeps changing so much, isn't it? You know, it's very simple. Understand it like that. In relationships, people say we should be transparent, isn't it? You know, that day you become transparent, relationship will get cut. You know that? Do you know? Because it cannot be based on it cannot be based on data. What all is happening in your head? Tell me. I feel like murdering you 100 times in a day. You say that, what will happen? But then everybody, because the ego cannot, the ego is so, it will want transparency, it will want data, but it will not be strong enough to accept it. That's why if you want to solace somebody, if you want to give solace to somebody, you will continuously lie. Have you ever observed that? Yargadu solace kudugunumna, what will you do? Will you say the truth to give solace? You have to say a lie. What is the lie? Don't worry, I am there for you. Adve lie. Isn't it? Because how do you know that you are going to be there? And how do you also know that the other person is going to be? How do you even know the other person is going to get strength from you being there? Because you being there is the problem for that person, isn't it? So what is the fact? I'm giving a simple example at a relationship level itself. People misunderstand. Knowledge means it's not data. Knowledge doesn't mean information. Knowledge means that which eliminates the ego. Ignorance means that which keeps the ego alive. In Vedanta, we use the word knowledge and ignorance in that sense. Are you able to follow? In the world, knowledge means information, data, authenticity, who said it, where it was said, how right it is, how wrong it is. Now, Vedanta is not concerned about that, because it says there is no authenticity to it. There is no permanency to it. There is no satyam in it. Why? Because it keeps changing. Anything that keeps changing, how can you call it as satyam? How can you call it as a reliable data? Are you able to follow? Therefore, the ego here says knowledge means I can never know. Ignorance means I know. Because why I'm giving this knowledge, ignorance is because 3 mantras is going to play with this word knowledge and ignorance. Since it's going to play with these 2 words, we need to have a proper understanding of what in Vedanta we mean by knowledge and ignorance. So by knowledge, what is meant? By knowledge, that which makes the ego to disappear is meant. Ignorance means what? That which makes the ego stronger. Ego demands transparency, but it cannot accept it. Ego talks as though it is very transparent. Stupidity. Because ego cannot, because ego survives in, ego can survive only in lies. Another exaggerated lie is a poetry, isn't it? Exaggerated lies are poetry. இதுதான் தமிழ் சினிமாலே பாடினாங்க இல்லையா, கவிதைக்கு பொய் அழகுன்னு சொன்னாங்க, isn't it? Exaggerated lies. Poetry means it has to be, it is exaggerated lies. Are you able to follow? Now, even on a relative plane also, when a person says, okay, the boy and girl meets each other, they fall in love with each other and they take a vow. What is the vow? We will be transparent to each other. What is transparency? The ego cannot handle transparency. Supposing the boy comes and says, you know, I want to be transparent. Just since we took the vow that we are transparent, I'm telling you transparently. What? You know, when I was coming back from office, I saw a beautiful girl. And genuinely, I wanted to go behind her. Transparency. What happens to the girl after that? Huh? What will happen to the girl after that? Supposing if the girl says the same thing to the boy, what will happen to the boy after that? Knowledge is correct. Data is correct. Knowledge is correct. Ego cannot handle all this. Ego cannot handle all. That is why trust and surrender becomes a foundation of religion. Not data, not information. Because ego means it wants, it will forgive. Or it's okay. It's okay. The girl will say it's okay for today. Next day, the boy will come. Since we took the vow of transparency, I was waiting in the bus stop for half an hour, hoping that girl will come. What will happen? Sunil. Now, in the knowledge, that's what is happening today, isn't it? Are you able to follow? It is not through knowledge. Ego suffers. Ego will suffer because of, ego will suffer. Ego will go through turmoil, but still it will, not knowing what it is asking, it will ask for, not knowing what it is asking, it will ask for knowledge. And knowledge it cannot handle. Are you able to follow? Even relatively, if it cannot handle this, what about the ultimate? What about the ultimate? Even few days back, I was telling a couple, transparency should be the basis of relationship. No, sir. I said, please divorce now only. I said, before things getting ugly, divorce now only. I said, why? Because transparency will make it ugly only. Why? Because how can the ego handle all that? Ego cannot handle. Then what is the basis of relationship? Then what is the basis of relationship? Gratitude, trust. And when it comes to Brahman, God, the Guru, it is called Shraddha. So the Guru here wanting the disciples not to leave the Shraddha and go and get caught in the trap of ego again. That is the first paradox. Are you okay till now? The first paradox, Punjada. This is the first paradox. Second thing is the ultimate knowledge of Brahman is paradoxical because Brahman is not only the unknown, it is the unknowable. Why it is a paradox? Because sometimes you feel like you are getting a glimpse of it. Sometimes you feel that you cannot comprehend it completely because it is so vast. You really do not know whether to say I know or I don't know. You can know it, you can get a glimpse of it because you are a part of it. You can never say, I know it fully because you have not yet merged with it. That is the paradox. Again, I repeat. Here and there you are able to appreciate because a part, you are the part of the whole. A part here and there can get a very vague idea of what it is. That very vague idea of what it is, you cannot say, I know. Because it is so vast that you can never comprehend it completely. In a way you understand, in a way it doesn't understand. So you can never say, I know it or I don't know it. Are you able to follow the second paradox? In a way you know it, in a way you can't know it. Therefore, you can never say whether you know it or not. Wherever Buddha goes, the question will be asked. Before people ask Buddha the question, his disciples will declare, no questions about the ultimate should be asked. Buddha will not answer. No questions about the ultimate should be asked. Buddha will not answer. Then what question can you ask? Isn't it? Someone asked, why don't you answer? He said, whatsoever I do in relation to the ultimate, it will be a problem. If I give an answer, it is going to be false in some way or the other. If I say I know, it's a problem. If I say I don't know, again it's a problem. Okay, instead of saying I know and I don't know, why can't I be silent? Why can't I be silent? Even if you are silent also, there is a problem. So if you say I know, there is a problem. If you say I don't know, there is a problem. If you remain silent, again that silence is also a problem. Either way, whatsoever you say, the ultimate cannot be conveyed. When you are silent or saying something, it remains unconveyed. This is the second paradox. The third paradox is Brahman, the ultimate, means mystery, secret. In Bhagavad Gita, he calls it as Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya. It's a royal knowledge and royal secret, he called it, because Brahman is Guhyam. Guhya means mystery. It is mysterious. Mysterious means you can never decode it. That is the third difficulty. The third difficulty is Brahman means mystery. Mystery means it cannot be decoded. Why it cannot be decoded? To decode something, you have to be an observer different from that. Then only you can decode it. Again, I repeat, if you have to decode it, you have to be an observer different from it. Then only you can decode it. Kabir writes a beautiful thing. He gives a beautiful story. There are a few fishes living in the ocean. And one day, the fishes heard two Vedanta students talking about ocean. Professors in Veram. Two Vedanta students, number students. Maybe our group discussion they would have heard. Yeah. So two fishes heard our group discussion. Yeah. And they heard about the ocean is getting repeated again and again and again. The word ocean is getting repeated. So one fish was very mystified to know what ocean What is this ocean? It became an obsession to the fish to know what the ocean is. She inquired from the elders. Amongst the fishes only, where else it will go? Yeah. The elders also said, we have also heard about it. We definitely know there is a thing called ocean, for we have heard about it so much. We have studied about it so much. But we yet don't know what it is. How can the fish ever know the ocean? Because the fish is in it. Are you able to understand? If you have to decode it, means the fish has to come out of, in order to see the ocean, the fish has to come out of the ocean. The moment it comes out of the ocean, it can't see anymore. It dies. Then how it can decode what the ocean is? That is the problem. You can never know it objectively. You can never know it objectively. This is a situation when a human being goes on inquiring about what is God, where is God, how to reach there. Kabir says it's all like the fish living in the ocean inquiring what is ocean. How can you teach ocean to the fish? That is a problem the Upanishadic gurus have. I add up to this and say, even for a few seconds, the fish can jump out of ocean. For a human being, even for a split second, you cannot get out of God, Brahman. Even for a split second, you cannot go out of God, Brahman. If you can go out of God, Brahman, even for a split second, you can through the instruments can get something. You can't even go out of it, I don't know, microsecond, millisecond, nanosecond, whatever the minutest time that you can conceive of, you cannot escape. That's what Isavasya Upanishad says. It outruns time. It outruns time. Wherever time is born, Brahman is sitting there already. It means it outruns time. You cannot jump out of it. You cannot go out of existence. You cannot know Brahman by the method by which we know other things. Because other things you know by observing about it. You know only by observing about it. Observing means you are different from it. You follow? The process of science and technology versus philosophy. Anything mysterious, science has to decode it and remove the mystery. Anything mysterious, science has to decode it. Decode panni mystery eduthaachunaka appada. Now it feels a satisfaction. I know. The Brahman remains mysterious and it will always remain the ultimate mystery. How can you say you know? You can know it only when it is demystified. And the mystery எடுத்துட்டு இதான் சொன்னாதான் you can say, I know. And every one of you will agree with somebody comes and says, this is God, abdina, we will agree. Straight away we will agree and nod our head and prostrate to that person also. Why? Because the mystery is removed. The mystery is solved. Paradox. This is the paradox. Brahman, God, the mystery will ever remain. That's why in a very loose way, I keep saying, science is the murderer of mystery. Science is the killer of mystery. Science is the murderer of mystery. Surely science can make you rich. Please understand that. Surely science and technology can make you rich. More you become richer, more you are becoming poorer. More you become rich and rich and rich, you become poor and poor and poor. Look at the world today. The world was never so rich and yet so poor, isn't it? The world was never rich as it is rich today. Everything has become richer, isn't it? That's why I said even the kings who ruled the world will be very jealous of the gardener here, isn't it? The gardener here has much better facilities than the emperors. Living in better houses, using better clothes, eating better food, the way we have conquered the time, the way we have conquered the space, the way we have conquered everything. Science has demystified everything. World has become richer, but human has become poorer. How do you know the human has become poorer? How do you know the human has become poorer? Because of all this, one thing went away. What? You cannot trust anybody anymore. The foundation of life is the trust. And that has eroded completely, isn't it? Password, double password, OTP, and that also can be hacked. You don't know what to do, isn't it? Look at children. They are not yet so wise, but they are so alive. And look at an old man, so wise, but no life at all. Are you able to understand the difference? Look at the child, it is so alive, very, very ignorant, but very alive. And the old man, so wise, but nothing is alive. Actually, how it should be? Logically speaking, how it should be? As you get old and old, you should become more and more alive, isn't it? As you get old and old, it is going away. Why? Because everything you want to decode, everything you want to know, and in that knowing, you feel everything you have to decode, isn't it? I'm very affectionate towards my children. I love my children so much. What love? There is no such thing called love. It is only a play of the hormones. What happens after that? What is love? There is no love. It's unnecessarily you are imagining there is this thing called love and all that. For there is no such thing called love. It is only a play of certain. It is only a play of certain chemicals in your brain. And once it changes, love also goes away. Now, what has gone? Because what happens out of this understanding? That is only hormones. What happens out of this now? You don't know what to do, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you feel like loving, you feel like giving. On the other hand, it's all taken away and said it's all a play of. There's no such thing called love. There's no such thing called love. There's no such thing called sacrifice. There's no such thing called guru. It's all play of hormones. Sunil, don't waste your time. Vedanta class, don't waste your time. It is simply, it is just a play of the hormones. It is demystified. What happens? But you don't know what to do, because on the one hand, you understand it as hormones. But when you are having it, you can't tell yourself it is only hormones and move away. When your child is doing a mistake, you can't say it's hormones. This is what will happen at this age. You can't be objective, because the knowledge is not making you The knowledge is not making you objective. Rather than making you objective and making you more alive, it is killing you. Are you able to follow? Upanishads doesn't want us to fall into this trap. The third paradox. What is the third paradox? Philosophy is born in wonderment. Religion is born in wonderment. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschitenam ascharya. Where did we study that? Vajagovindam, where did we study this? Ascharya. Wonderment. Ingappa படிச்சிருக்கிறோம் விஜய் எங்க படிச்சிருக்கிறோம் ஆத்மபோதால ரொம்ப நல்லா சொல்லியிருக்கிறார் சார் ஆத்மபோதாவா Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 he goes Ascharya. That Ascharya is borrowed from Kenopanisad, because in Kenopanisad Yama says it is Ascharya. It's Ascharya, wonderment. Philosophy is born in wonderment. Immediately the ego takes over, the mind takes over and wants an explanation. Are you able to follow? Sunil, philosophy is born in wonderment. The moment the wonderment happens, the ego takes over. And how the ego takes over? Ego wants an explanation. Now explain to me, sir, what is happening. The moment you start explaining, it becomes science. Science very soon has to end up in a technology that is machine. Again, I repeat, explanation will not stop. Where does explanation stop? Has anybody gotten convinced by explanations? Is there anybody who got convinced by? If somebody can get convinced by explanations, oh my God. Explain mandrom. Doubt still remains the same only. How much of explanation is done week after week after week, day after day after day, but mind still remains the same only. Why? Because philosophy says, religion says, Upanishad says, begins with wonderment and ends in wonderment. It begins with wonderment and ends in wonderment. This is paradoxical. Knowledge kills this wonderment. The knowledge kills this wonderment. What is killing this wonderment means? I know. That is why anything mysterious, you want an explanation. Take it or leave it. This is the truth. Explanation is very superficial. Any explanation is very superficial. This is the attitude of the Upanishads. Therefore, they don't worry about explaining. Again, I repeat, explanations are very explain. I want to know what happened, explain. The other person explains. Does that convince you in any way? Has anybody gotten convinced by any explanation? What is the other method? The method of the Upanishad. What is the method of the Upanishad? If you say, I know, the mantras is going to start. Idam part 2 introduction. This is introduction to part 2. The moment you say, I know, and nod your head, the Guru will take a stick and hit on your head. Because you should not nod your head and say, I understand. சொல்லவே கூடாது. இந்த கிளாஸ்ல சொல்லுங்க, அப்பதான் எங்களுக்கு தெரியும் இல்லையா? ஏன்னா இங்கெல்லாம் உபநிஷதெல்லாம் நடக்கலைங்க இல்லையா? The teacher is not the Upanishadic teacher, the student is not the Upanishadic student. ஏதோ டைம் பாஸ் ஆகின்னு இருக்குது. So it is very different. Explanation, all explanation is only on the surface, superficial. It is the human ego that things explanations have to be found for everything. Again, I repeat, it's a paradox. It is the human ego that believes that explanations have to be found for everything. Vijayarangan. எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஒரு கான்செப்ட் வைக்கணும், அதுக்கு ஒரு எக்ஸ்பிளனேஷன் கொடுக்கணும், அப்புறம் இந்த எக்ஸ்பிளனேஷனால ஒரு கன்ஃபியூஷன் வரும், அதை உட்காந்து ரிசால்வ் பண்ணணும். All this is the mad game that goes on in the world. This madness goes on and on and on. That's why the Upanishad takes a different stance. What is a different stance it takes? This is it. No explanation. Take it or leave it. This is it. This is the truth. Tattvamasi. Take it or leave it. But explain, no, sir. Because the ego believes in explanation, it can understand. More and more you explain, more and more doubts come. Here the Upanishadic students have reached that peak. What is that peak? In relation to the world, he hit the peak and came to listen to Brahman. And the way the Guru explained the Brahman in part 1, the student again fell into the same trap. What is the same trap? Previously, if he said, I understood world, now he's saying, I am understanding Brahman. The moment he says, I am understanding Brahman, he wants to or put mandela. Yeah, one knock at the head. Not with the stick, not with the puller. Volaka means what? Pounding stick. You feel like taking a pounding stick and breaking the head. Nothing will happen. What one more head? That's all. What is the point in doing that also? You follow? Therefore, ignorance is possible only if it can remain mysterious forever. Ignorance is possible only when it can remain mysterious forever. Brahman forever will remain a mystery. Therefore, you can never say, I know. Are you able to follow? புரியுதா? Mystery இருக்கணும், ignorance இருக்கணும். Ignorance இருந்தா only if it remains a mystery, you can say, I don't know. Are you able to follow? The moment to say, I know, what happens? Mystery is gone. You have demystified it. You have decoded it. Can you decode Brahman like that? You can demystify Brahman like that. Brahman always remains a mystery. Since you have understood Brahman always remains a mystery, the person can say, with utter humility, a person can say, what? I can never know. He will not say, I don't know. He will not say, I will never. He say, I can never know. I can never know Brahman as an observer. I can never know Brahman as in I know everything else. And the only way to know Brahman is Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. If everything can be explained, you will cling on to knowledge. Are you able to follow? If everything can be explained, if you believe each and everything has an explanation and can be explained, what will you hold on to? Information, knowledge, data. And that data knowledge become more and more important. When knowledge and this data becomes more and more important, what is gathering strength? What is gathering strength? Ego. Correct. But ego is gathering strength. It is that ego that is gathering strong. It is the ego that is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. That's why Vedas, Vedanta will never stuff you with data and information. It can be, it will never stuff you with data. It will never stuff you with information, because more data, more information means the ego is strengthened. What is the strengthening of the ego? The knowledge that you have makes you feel you are very significant. The knowledge that you believe that you have makes you think that you are very significant. Because I know. And the I perusa ponno, KNOW kuttiya ponno. When you write, how you should write? Sunil. In the whole page, write I. Huh? And then write at the bottom KNOW. Adao, isn't it? That's what will happen. The I becomes more and more significant. You can never find a foolish person like me, because the amount of information that I used to hunt, you have no idea. After a very long time, it dawned. So in my room, I used to have it for a while. I had it. I know. I fulla page fulla I irukum. And the KNOW will be so small. And each and every knowledge is only becoming, it is only strengthening the ego. Huh? What is the indication of ego getting strengthened? What are the indications? Then only you will know. Huh? What are the indications that the ego is getting strengthened? The ego creates politics. The ego creates ambition. The ego creates jealousy. The ego creates frustration. The ego creates everything, and it's a trap. Ego creates a constant struggle. Ego makes you violent. Ego makes you violent. Violent in thought, violent in word, violent in deed. Why? Because ego cannot be satisfied unless it reaches to the top. Ego cannot be satisfied unless it reaches to the top. Huh? Imagine everyone is trying to reach to the top. And although they say cutthroat competition, no? Nobody is so competitive, sir. Cutthroat competition. Cutthroat competition in Artham. Cutthroat competition in Artham. Murder somebody, because only on the way to the top, remember this, take it or leave it, Narayana. The way to the top is always over a pile of dead bodies that you have to murder. Take it or leave it. You may agree, you may not agree. It's your life. The way to the top, the path to the top is over the pile of dead bodies. Ego does that. Once you realize that, why will you want to do this? Why will you want to do it? You will move aside and say, after you. Now are you able to understand what is after you? After you, get to the I'm practicing after you, sir. What? Get to the yeah, it's not that. You don't pile up dead bodies. You say, okay, I move aside, you go. I move aside, you run. I move aside, you run. A cutthroat competition arises in every arena of life. You see education, you see economics, you see politics, you see science, everywhere. What? The ambition to reach to the top. And no one thinks where he is going when he is trying to reach to the top. No one thinks where he is going in the attempt that you make to reach to the top. What will you achieve by reaching the top? Okay, you reach the top. What will you achieve? Isn't it? Same fear, same jealousy, same worry, same anxiety. And then you realize ego means simply wasting life. Ego means nothing is achieved. You simply waste your life. And what is the life that you waste? Jantunam narajanma durlabam. Of all the species, to be born as a human being is very rare, extremely difficult. Having gotten this, what do? Pile up dead bodies as a stepping stone to reach to the top. The very attempt that the very piling up of bodies that helps you to reach to the top disturbs you to the most when you reach to the top. Are you able to follow? That is where there's a very big fallacy in thinking nowadays. The very big fallacy in thinking nowadays is this. People believe success erases all wrongdoings. They believe that hook or crook attain success because success erases all wrongdoings. Nothing gets erased. Nothing gets erased. Bhagavad Gita adan sonar pona varamu mundina varamu last week or previous week. Bahuda vishwato mukam narav. I'm watching you in 10 directions. I'm in 10 directions watching. The ego gets blinded to that. The ego becoming blinded to that. Do this. What Vedas do, the Upanishads do, it will not kill the mystery. It will expose the uselessness of the ego. It will expose the uselessness of the ego and retains God as the mystery ever. Again, I repeat, this is the beautiful, this is the Veda, this is Vedanta, this is Upanishad. It will expose the futility of the ego and keeps God as mystery. To explain this, part 2. To explain this comes part 2, because part 1 gave such a beautiful explanation about God. The ego of the student took over and said, I understood. Now he's saying you are committing the same mistake. Mistake is the same. Enna oor da different, isn't it? You go and commit the same mistake in a different place. Mistake is the same. What is the mistake? The explanations made you to understood something and you started believing now that you know. So religion doesn't take the mystery away. Science takes the mystery away. Remember, how much ever science tries to take the mystery away, mystery cannot be taken away. What is a rose? A rose can be segregated into the physical properties, chemical properties, biological properties, and maybe one day you can make a rose in the lab also, isn't it? Nowadays they are trying to make meat in the lab, which is vegetarian. You know that? Meat lab in the laboratories, meat are made, and that meat is vegetarian. Why? Because it is not made out of killing. The human ego has the insane is this. Insane is this ego. And how much ever. So one day in a lab you can make rose also. One day in the lab you can make an apple also. You can make a rose, you can make an orange, you can make a meat, you can make a human being. But this is how science tries to solve. Religion comes and says, Upanishad comes and says, this method doesn't work at all. Why? Even the little bit of joy here and there, even the little bit of bliss that you are getting here and there in your life, in spite of all this misery, where does it come from? It is not coming from explanations. It is not coming from any of this. It is coming through the sheer joy of looking and getting wonderstruck at the mystery. Are you able to follow what I'm saying now? Even the little bit of joy here and there you are getting is not out of any explanations. It's not out of any understanding. It is just looking at something so vast, huge, big, and being wonderstruck at that. This is introduction to part 2. To summarize all that, to summarize the whole thing, one word. What? Keep it as it will always remain a mystery, and it can never be known as an observer. Able to follow? It will always remain a mystery, and you can never know it as an observer. If you can never know it as an observer, then how will you know it? If you can never know it as an observer, then how will you know it? By becoming it. Brahmavid, Brahmaiva Bhavati. That's Upanishadic formula. The knower, the only way to know it is by becoming it. In worldly knowledge, the known and the knower has to be separate. For example, okay, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati means what? Okay, I'll give you a simple example. Make it simple. If I say, the only way to know Anshu is to become Anshu. Will I ever want it? Will I ever want it? The way to know Sunil is to become Sunil. Oh my God, isn't it? The only way to know SSV is to become SSV. Yeah? Isn't it? No. There you can know only when knowing creates a segregation. Here, knowing means the known and the knower becomes the known and the knower merges. In that merger, you never know what is where. You can never know where is the knower and where is the known. Just as few miles into the ocean, you will never know where the ocean begins and where the river came and entered. That is Brahmavid, Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. The only way to know God is to come. The moment one becomes it, there are indicators to it. That also we are going to see. The moment you know it, there are indicators that how you know. There are a few indicators for that also. One thing that he wants to be careful. One thing that he wants us to understand very clearly is what? Brahman cannot be understood through any explanation. It remains a mystery forever. Through explanation, the hollowness of the ego can be explanation can only expose the hollowness of the ego. Explanations cannot teach you what Brahman is. Tadeva Brahmatvam Viddhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. Tadeva Brahmatvam Viddhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. They went on saying it so much that the student got a glimpse of it. Now he's trying to remove that. Not today, tomorrow. Tomorrow onwards, we'll go into the mantra. With this, we conclude for today.